Good morning. Today is the 30th of April. I am in Vermont. I don't know what to call this area. We're in new territory today. We are north of the Five Bogs. That whole area, actually. We are a little bit north of that entire area. We are in new territory. So we are kind of blazing new trails, I guess. We're going to go up here, look for potential. Can't really predict anything, again, first time here, so we'll see what we find and report as we need to. So we're going to get going and we'll report back. Thanks. Okay, so we're not doing anything really glamorous today. We are in an area sort of near where I've been before, but haven't been up this way before, and come to find out there's a bit of a conjunction of areas you can get to up in here, so that's going to probably necessitate some follow-up into this area. But new territory, sometimes it proves to be interesting, sometimes you go in and you write it off your list because there's not a lot going on. There's some potential here, so we'll probably follow up. So I've been back up here for 2 weeks. I was last week in a pond area that had eluded me not most of last year, that's an exaggeration, but more than once. And the plan was, when you don't have a lot of undergrowth yet, this is probably a poor example because of the amount of smaller pines in here, but they normally, you can see in a ways. And the undergrowth of the area, once you get in there in late June, it's so thick in there, root balls, undergrowth, denning bears. Found that out later in the summer, but I did see them once or twice. The circumstances were counterproductive to finding this place. Last week I did. That video will be up with any luck tomorrow at some point. And week before that, first time back up, held off 3 weeks ago, trying to remember why. I think it was because weather. There was predicted some wet and wild weather up here, factored in with snow. So I stayed local and drove through a massive hailstorm coming home. Probably should have had the dash cam for that. That would have been some interesting footage. Not in the woods, but in an area where I can't recall in my adult life driving through northern Connecticut and having my car absolutely pummeled by marble-sized hail like that before. Crazy stuff. That's what kept me from getting up here, because I was thinking I'd avoid all that up here, but apparently the good people of this thing shipped it south, and we got some down there too. So, but 2 weeks ago, basically did a pattern sweep through the Five Bogs area and greater area. It was quiet. Don't really know what expectations I have of this area. Again, never been up this way before, so, or through this particular stretch, so that's what's happened so far up here. And in a couple of weeks, I'll probably, on a long weekend or something, I'll back to back up here and then local, because at some point they have to stop logging the local area. But that's probably what's kept it quiet this year, with man-made interference in the area. The area I'm on today is not the best ingress road, but if you're to believe Google Maps, it does go for, I'm gonna conservatively say minimally 10 miles. So I could do this all day if I wanted to. I am fighting some allergies, so that is debatable. But I am going to get in here enough, get an initial lay of the land, and then side areas to follow up in. And for our opening segment, that's what's on my mind. I'm going to continue to cover some ground, take a segment break. So we're back, and we've been making ingress along this trail road for about a little over an hour. And it definitely goes at least 10-15 miles. Came upon this beaver pond area. This whole thing is, if you look over there, it is literally all beaver dam at the end of that. And if you look over here, same thing. Both sides of the road, there's a little tunnel system across the road going this way, and the whole thing is a big beaver pond. So getting up in and around and behind this thing on a return trip is, and actually if you could get to that little peninsula thing right there, that could be an interesting overnight spot if you're willing to walk all the way out here. So that's one of 3 that we've walked by so far, and we're going to continue moving. Nice scenic spot, so a nice spot for an interlude. This one too. I kind of like the spot for fishing too, if I'm being honest, because you got a nice little deep spot right there, a nice little deep spot where you could probably hide a trout or a bass or two. But it's a nice little spot in the middle of nowhere, and I think it'd be hard-pressed to find anyone knowing the spot beyond a point. You could always go to the point behind that, too. That being said, we're going to do a segment break and cover more ground and keep going. So we'll be back in a bit, yet again. Okay, we're back, and another spot along the way is this stump garden-like little beaver pond in here. Smaller than the other one, but there's a couple in here. Last time I was up this way in the winter and was by one of these things, I happened upon a Shire moose that was in the background behind the trees and something like this. Yeah, so like behind the stuff like that, like over that way, you would have had a moose that retreated into the woods. Kind of thought it would be from the way it was acting, and then you see the big old thing going in the woods, like, yep, that's what I thought that was. So anyway, just kind of like a stop along the way. It's been quiet up this way. But again, I walked about an hour and a half one way. I'm working my way back now. This trail, road, you draw your conclusions. No signage on it per se, but it goes, I've gone on it at least 3-4 miles. It keeps going, so later in the year when I have more time or a bigger plan than I had today. Because the reminder again, I kind of came up here knowing this is new territory. I didn't really have an agenda, just like, let's kind of walk it back, see where it goes and what do you find, and then we'll go from there. So it is worthy of a follow-up. We will come back. And my last segment, there was a nice little fishing spot. I could stop off and do some fishing there. Conceivably camp along the way, a couple of places in here. And that's my thought for now. We're going to keep moving and we'll report back. At this point, however, should I decide that we've done our bit for the day, I will say, like and subscribe if you are so moved. Write in the comments. Tell me I suck in the comments. Tell me why, though. I mean, it's only fair. Or don't. And we're going to keep moving. And if there's another segment, we'll keep talking then. Otherwise, we're going to get moving now. But we may or may not see you in a bit.